Thanks for joining us on Let's Get Defensive, the show where we make fun of Andrew for being late, but also where we get to talk about the defensive strategies used in the Saints and Chiefs game last night.
Oh, that was a good game. You saw the play by Travis, right?
Yeah, I mean,
guys, thank you. Focus. Yeah, you're doing that wrong show thing again. This is the show, everyone, where we talk business problems. We talk business problems and solve them with digital transformation solutions across the product life cycle. 3 sections, 2 commercial breaks, lots of stuff, and always welcome your thoughts along the way and your comments along the way, or even questions for that matter.
I mean, yeah, I guess that could be a show too. Yeah, that sounds good. So coming up, Saab, Dassault, Lockheed, Rheinmetall, MBDA, BAE, Embraer, Kaman, Virtualistics, Mercury Systems, RTX, and more. Let's just dive in.
Yeah, we got a lot going on. Speaking of battling it out, not quite like the Chiefs and the Saints, but the Philippines is about to drop a cool $7 billion on 40 new fighter jets, and the world's top aerospace companies are battling it out to win the contract. We've got Saab's Gripen and the Eurofighter Typhoon leading the pack, Lockheed Martin's F-16, Korea Aerospace Industries KF-21, and Turkish Aerospace Industries, I think Hürjet and Khan are in the mix. There's a lot. And then Dassault's Rafale is another contender. I know the Saab is pushing its Gripen, banking on its cost effectiveness, but there's a lot. I mean, the competition is part of the multi-role fighter program aimed at boosting the Philippines' air defense capabilities, but the battle is brewing.
This is a major contract, not only for whoever wins it, but I mean, for the Philippines, $7 billion is a lot of money in the Philippines. And unfortunately, it speaks to what's going on in South China Sea. Over the last few years, there have been islands popping up as China has built these atolls and then made them into naval bases, all that kind of things going on. But, in the thick of all that, these fighter jet giants, I'm looking at the number one challenge for this being, I think it's consistent for everybody, and that's about accelerating time to market while staying flexible for customization.
I think that whoever wins this contract, I hope that they're ready to manufacture at scale. But at this stage of the battle, it's really all about who can deliver the best product for the needs of the Philippines at the best value. So we're looking at the requirements here, the manufacturing plans, figuring out how low can I go in a price point by still maximizing deliverables and hopefully profitability. The companies at play are tough competition. Saab, Dassault, Lockheed, Turkish Aerospace, and more, like all lots of giants here. And I think that Saab's Gripen is currently the leader for cost effectiveness, but Lockheed's Falcon is actually one of the most popular fighter jets in the world. And coming new in 2025, the Turkish Aerospace Industries Hürjet is going to hit the market and might have some cutting edge on modern tech options. So as they're all battling it out, I think they're really having to look at comparing what they can deliver, the requirements of what they've got to deliver with how cheap they can manufacture it.
Yeah, the competition's fierce, you're right. But I think the real challenge here goes beyond kind of the price point issue. Cost effectiveness, undoubtedly key. The number one challenge has got to be companies facing and securing the deal is their ability to manufacture at scale and at speed. Things are happening down there, unfortunately. We're talking about a contract that's tied to regional security concerns, and they're very real. So the Philippines will want those jets as soon as they possibly can to reinforce their overall defense capabilities, which are pretty antiquated now. So if I had to pick the top challenge in product lifecycle, it's definitely time to market, which I think is a global issue. I talk about it every week. The faster you can scale your production without bottlenecks, especially across multi-country supply chains, the better your chance to deliver value. And that's not just about how cheap, it's also about flexibility. It's about managing your supply chains and meeting the aggressive timelines while you keep your quality at the ultimate level. So in terms of how I'd kind of fix that situation, I bring in AI over the top of critical thread. I think our critical thread solution, end to end, seamless, is one thing, but I think you've got to bring in your AI to accelerate and optimize your entire process. You're going to manage your supply chain risk, predict your production delays before they actually happen, and adjust your resource allocation on the fly. A lot to do on that one.
I just got to dive in. So, Greg, next time Andrew says anything about flanger bringing back that mishap, you now have a resource to come back with.
Resource. Okay, that's right. I'll do that. I'll remember that. Now,
it's going to be a little Francais.
That's right. That's right. As much competition as there is in the defense industry, there's also a lot of collaboration. Rheinmetall and MBDA are teaming up to develop a maritime laser weapon system, setting the stage for next gen naval defense. I keep mixing up laser and naval, and sometimes it's nasal, so I apologize. But the laser system aims to counter drones, offering a cheaper alternative to traditional air defense missiles. The partnership really is building on these successful tests where the duo, Rheinmetall and MBDA, really demonstrated their laser capabilities aboard a German Navy frigate. Right. But costs for defensive or missile defense systems are sky high, pun intended, like $2 million missiles taking out $2,000 drones, whereas lasers are a fraction of that per piece. So besides drones, the laser system could fend off threats like small boats, missiles. I mean, this could revolutionize naval warfare.
There's a lot of revolutionizing that could happen here. And I think when you're looking at this, you've got the research and development, which are going to be huge hurdles to really overcome in order to make this tech that could become something that all the naval forces around all the modern forces around the world are using. But what we're looking at here is Rheinmetall and MBDA joining forces, which means, of course, collaboration, but specifically looking at collaboration of the data at all stages through the design and manufacturing process. Mm-hmm. So obviously, I think having a good PLM system here that allows you to integrate all the people and data across multiple countries and locations is going to be key. But more than just that collaboration, because this is a product that is really likely to reshape the landscape or waterscape of maritime security, we are looking at having to have design and change that work across the collaboration. There's going to be 6 game-changing laser weapons in the next 6 years. Mm-hmm. We need rapid, efficient testing. We need a good way to do revisioning, all while trying to be cost effective. So for me, I know that Andrew's going to say you always go there, but I'm going there. Design and change management is the number one thing for me to look at here.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And as is your statement that the entirety of the product life cycle is a problem as well, Bryan. I mean, talk about sit on the fence there. The number one life cycle issue here is balancing the speed of innovation with rigorous testing and validation. So test, validate, especially in a highly regulated defense sector. Testing a next gen system like this laser weapon across different environments. I mean, you've got sea, you've got hurricanes and weather conditions and more hurricanes, even different types of threats is going to require a product validation strategy that can keep pace with all of these design changes that are coming through. So it's not about launching it quickly. It's about ensuring reliability and scalability after deployment. So how would I solve that? Integrate artificial intelligence into the product life cycle so you can automate and speed up your feedback loop, because your AI is going to be able to predict testing outcomes. It's going to be able to automate the testing itself as well and help anticipate failure points before they become real issues. So not only does it accelerate your time to market, but it also makes sure that your quality and your scalability without sacrificing your cost effectiveness.
And those test results have to be fed back into your change process in order to have a good design and change management happening. They've got to work together, which means we agree. All right, next.
Yeah. Got to create those feedback loops. Airbus is teaming up with their partner Caesar in the EU's GEESE project to advance wake energy retrieval, a technique that allows planes to fly in formation to save fuel. Building on its earlier success from its fellow fly trials, the wake energy retrieval technique could reduce fuel consumption by 5 to 10%, which I feel like is a pretty massive chunk on that. Mm-hmm. The Geese project, obviously named after geese who use natural similar techniques during migration.
Is it obviously named after geese from nature or Nick Goose Bradshaw?
Oh, that's very true. I need to add that to my movie list to watch again.
For all
And
the
he
Top
would
Gun
be
fans
who?
out there.
Who's he? Well, who
Nick-
did you say? Top Gun?
Goose from Top Gun.
Goose. Okay, yeah. Didn't know
Goose.
his name was Nick Bradshaw.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad they didn't name it Rooster, which is his son. But the project, funded with 10 million euros, includes major partners like Boeing, Air France, and Virgin Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the goal is to really scale the wake energy retrieval for both transatlantic and European flights, which would reduce emissions and fuel costs across the industry, across the globe.
Wow.
I mean, simulations are going to refine this, but it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. That's pretty big. Airbus and Cesar partners. I mean, they're taking that whole wake energy retrieval to new heights, literally, I guess. Imagine this. I'm just thinking about it. Airplanes are flying in formation like geese, saving up to 10% in fuel consumption. That technique could revolutionize transatlantic and European flights if you think about it at scale.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Sure, it sounds good in theory, but the real challenge now is how do you actually scale that innovation across different airlines, different routes, different countries, airspaces, without messing up safety? Because if one group's doing it and the other one isn't doing it, it's going to be a logistical juggling nightmare, I would say. You're going to have to optimize real-time coordination for dozens upon dozens of variables, from weather to air traffic control across a whole bunch of different countries. That's the biggest challenge.
So here we're looking at, one airplane literally riding the result of a previous aircraft passing through the air. And that savings of up to 10% is something that is definitely going to, and has already lured many stakeholders. We're looking at Eurocontrol, Air France, Indra, AirNav, Boeing, Virgin Atlantic, Delta. Like, whether you're military or cargo or passenger planes, like, all of this is a huge savings you've got to look at. So this means we're looking at collaboration between different companies, looking at the logistics and the planning, and all culminating into the need for a strong requirements management solution and safety, of course. But the thing that I think is going to be the biggest one to figure out is specifically figuring out those flight paths with the logistics, because you might have a plane doing a really long flight and they may need to coordinate with a few doing some shorter flights that just happen to be somewhat along their flight to help, all this. And that's something that's going to be harder just to figure out with how many planes are flying through the air every day. A humble human brain is going to have some difficulty figuring out the most efficient way to do all this.
That leads nicely into what I was going to say, the solution. So, I do see your point on the whole requirements management. But let's be real, it's about way more, I think, than planning and managing requirements. The big thing here is real-time optimization. I mean, these planes aren't just flying in a straight line. They're navigating complex airspaces. They've got changing weather. They've got routes. They've even got fuel needs mid-flight potentially. So for me, the number one challenge here is ensuring that all works flawlessly on every flight, every time, without putting safety at risk. So for me on that one, I'd integrate AI-driven simulation and operational systems into the processes. So it's kind of heads up, isn't it, really? You can plan out the best game plan, but unless the team on the ground and in the air, in this case, has got that real ability to optimize based upon what's in front of them, that's the real thing here. So I think you've got to let AI handle that chaos, feeding continuous adjustments to pilots in real time. So not only does that keep them operationally smooth, but it also pushes those fuel savings up while maintaining safety. So AI is going to be the only way for optimization on this.
Now, while we ponder the fact that Andrew has just said about saving fuel, saving money, but also was concerned about the safety of human lives.
I'm noting that down. I wrote it down in my journal.
Okay, that's your HR piece for the day, yeah?
For the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So while pondering that, let's take a look at some exciting headlines from the week. There is a lot of money being spent.
Yeah, there is.
I want to know, where was that light armed logistical vehicle in Nigeria 20 years ago when I had a business down there? Because I could have really done with that. To keep safe.
I'll
Just
tell
to
you,
go from my home to the office, I could have done with that.
that's right. Yeah. Saab is looking up, and I'm seeing a lot of money spent in
Yeah.
MRO as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I know we've talked about it, but yeah.
Saab are doing good. They need a good manufacturing system, I think.
Yeah, that's true. BAE Systems, the European Common Radar System Mark II, flew for the first time on a UK Typhoon, boosting the jet's airspace control capabilities. The development, which is led by BAE Systems and Leonardo UK, enhances the Typhoon's role in NATO defense. The radar itself combines some traditional functions, search and targeting, with advanced electronic warfare, really allowing Typhoon jets to jam enemy radars from a pretty safe distance, which I think is a huge step forward.
Yeah, this is pretty fascinating and pretty great because we're looking at a milestone that has obviously followed extensive ground testing, looking at the strong collaboration between the UK Ministry of Defense, RAF, and just the industry in general. And when we're looking at this, we're taking something that is new technology and having to make sure to put it on existing hardware, right? So we're obviously looking at integration. How are we going to integrate this in a way that is seamless, that works correctly, that helps to actually basically plug and play, but it doesn't ever work as nicely as that, right? So being able to, the systems that really need to use this, like targeting missile systems, right? They need to be able to take the data from the radar and use it correctly and in real time. So I think figuring out that integration into the existing hardware is the number one thing to look at.
I just want to go. I'm going to come back to that in a second. But for me, there's a lot of talk about retiring the Typhoon right now as we go forward, especially when you've got this new, I don't know if you guys have seen it, the 6th gen fighter Tempest. Have you seen that?
Not yet.
No.
That is the weapon of the year. Never mind week. It's very, very cool looking. Take a look when you get a second. But this upgrade for Typhoon is relevant. It's going to have to be relevant for years to come. I think I heard they were trying to keep the Typhoon going for another 10 years. Pretty amazing. I mean, I'm not sure how long it's been around now, maybe 30, 35 years, something like that. So it's going to be up there with the B-52 soon, I'm sure. But for me, the real challenge isn't just the integration of the tech. It's managing the entire life cycle of the platform. Yes, Brian, shoot me down. I've gone the whole the whole life
Let's
cycle.
take a moment and realize that what you accuse me of saying all the time of the whole life cycle is important. Now you just did it.
Okay. Yeah, but in my
okay.
defense, from design changes to operational validation, you got to ensure that everything runs smoothly as we move towards gradually replacing Typhoon with Tempest. And that's where the critical thread and AI come into play. Key challenge is managing the complexity of these upgrades across the entire product life cycle. You've got design modifications, you've got systems integration, and rigorous testing to make sure that the upgrades don't introduce vulnerabilities as they go forward. So that's where your AI helps us track everything in real time, from design validation to predictive maintenance. So that's why I went with the whole product life cycle, using AI to simulate how those upgrades will perform in different combat scenarios, and to continuously monitor system health. Critical, make sure it performs at peak all the way.
I'm glad this show is recorded, because now I can just have basically Andrew saying, and I quote, "In my defense, Bryan was right all along."
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Next up, Dassault Aviation is setting up a new subsidiary, Dassault Aviation MRO India, acronym DAMROI, focused on maintaining its military aircraft in India. Based in Noida, Uttar Pradesh, DAMROI is going to be supporting the Indian Air Force's Mirage 2000 fleet, and of course some other Dassault fighter jets. The move aligns with India's Make in India and other policies promoting self-reliance, local airspace capabilities. I'd be excited if I were the country of India right now. Dassault is going to be providing custom services, leveraging its expertise while contributing to India's air defense ecosystem, and then skill development through training programs, which is great. I mean, this really is just going to strengthen India's position as an international aerospace supplier, even more so than it already is.
That's a big move, and a big move, not just for Dassault, but also for India's entire aerospace ecosystem. Good for them. Yeah. Real challenge here, it's not about getting it started. However, a subsidiary of Dassault, not that that's that easy in India, but it's actually about integrating a seamless, agile MRO operation that can scale, as India's defense needs, evolve, not revolve. And that's where the product life cycle is going to get real interesting for me on this one.
So, DAMROI or DAM ROI? I mean, does this mean we're trying to not like return on investment? No, just kidding. But in all seriousness, the subsidiary, I can get words out today.
The last one worked.
Yeah, that's it. Subsidiary made for a single country is an impressive undertaking that says a lot about the demand and need in India. Yeah. India is currently pushing for the Make in India policy for Skill India. And this really could mean like a massive shift on the global scale. There's an argument, and a strong argument here, just like Andrew made in the previous article we discussed, to consider every aspect of the product lifecycle management is most important. But I am going to start at requirements. You've got to figure out, you're looking at a company designed entirely for one country's use in industry here. So I think you've got to figure out, what are my requirements, and start there when designing the rest of this whole company.
Yeah, good point, and a really good try from you, Bryan. Starting on the front end with requirements, but to me the biggest hurdle is going to be scaling MRO operations fast enough to keep up with India's defense growth, because that is really growing. They've got a lot of kind of collaborations going on with some competitive countries, as well as what we're doing with India as well. So Dassault's got to integrate all of these services into India's existing ecosystem without a hitch. So the key life cycle for me is execution and scalability. You know how I'd handle it? You get, come on, you get one guess.
Bring in mom.
No. AI-powered predictive maintenance and real-time operational visibility. So by embedding AI into the MRO process, Dassault is going to be able to move from reactive to proactive, predictive maintenance, making sure they're predicting those issues before they actually happen, based upon solid data, based upon solid machine learning data. And that's going to cut down on downtime and ramp up the efficiency of the service. That's going to be critical when you've got a growing fleet to manage.
Yeah. Do you build an AI to QA the AI? I mean, that seems a little cyclical. I don't know.
Well,
anyways,
then that's getting into lights out or factory, all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
You might have to, because as you're building this predictive maintenance off of things that are, existing histories.
Yeah.
But how do you always know that the existing history is, it goes back to the old example of the woman who was making a turkey for Thanksgiving, and would like always cut it into a smaller thing and put it in like in a smaller thing, and went like, Mom, why are we cutting this? Her mom didn't know, went to Grandma, why are we cutting this? And like, oh, because it wouldn't fit in the oven back when I was growing up. So like some things that we've done one way all the time does not necessarily mean that's the best way. So you got to also quality check everything here.
Yeah, if you are taking one single instance of history, that is a good argument. But the reality of AI is it's taking a massive data, not necessarily isolated to one product, one company's data history, but also you've got data coming in from worldwide. So I think it's not just a one-trick pony. I think it's really taking data from a lot of historical examples
and processing it faster than we can't look at history and say, oh yeah, that makes sense. But when you have thousands and thousands upon thousands of data points coming in,
you got it.
Yep.
Well, speaking of AI taking off, on a completely different note, Embraer has introduced the E2 Enhanced Takeoff System, which automates aircraft takeoffs to improve safety, reduce pilot workload, and increase flight efficiency. Now, this system is providing precise, consistent takeoffs, way outperforming human capability, and reduces the takeoff distance while boosting payload and range. I mean, designed for smooth integration, the system is assisting pilots during takeoff, but returns control to normal autopilot and pilot functions once a certain altitude is reached, it sounds like. Like a launching in London City, Florence, and Santos Dumont airports. Embraer expects wider adoption as interest in the new technology grows.
Well, yeah, this is something that is going to be wanted by, I guess, every airport, right? But I'm going to leave the mention of AI to Andrew, because I want to dive into testing, and more testing. This is a system where the automation has to act in real time with technology and with hardware, and that any error that we have is going to be catastrophic. And we know that bringing in computers to do all the thinking and calculations is faster than humans can do it. So it's likely going to be safer, more efficient, and probably able to happen under more difficult situations than a human pilot could handle by themselves. But it's all got to be tested to make sure that the system can adapt, that pilots are trained correctly, that operational efficiency, overall safety are all considered in the testing process, because we have seen the difficulties, like, self-driving cars, in Austin, some of the self-driving cars, the ride share things, had traffic jams that humans would have been like, oh, let's figure out how to get out of this. But they got stuck in this because of the way that the system had learned, right? And so we're now adding a new dimension, not only just driving on roads, basically 2 dimensions. That third dimension of taking off, landing, you got 3 dimensions to go in. I guess 4, because time's involved too, right? So all of these things happening. I think you've got to figure out the testing scenarios here.
Yep, true. It's absolutely critical.
Did Andrew just agree with me?
But
there it goes. There it goes.
Yeah, but testing is only just the baseline in a system like this. We're really talking about real-time decisions in a super fast-paced, high-risk environment. The real game changer isn't just testing, it's about AI-driven automation that's going to make it work reliably. So sure, testing needs to be thorough, but you can test something 1,000 times and still not predict every scenario a plane could encounter on takeoff. So for me, the number one challenge is ensuring real-time adaptability during takeoff. So, conditions are going to change in seconds, whether the wind could change, the weight conditions, the runway conditions are going to adjust. So they're going to have to dynamically adjust to all of those variables without missing a beat. And that's how I'd solve it. I'd lean on AI, not just for the automation, but for predictive analytics, feeding it data from previous flights to optimize and refine the system over a period of time.
It's true.
Yep.
Common Corporation has secured a $14 million contract from the U.S. Department of Defense to produce new components for Ukraine's Hawk air defense missiles, as you can see here. The contract involves supplying 500 missile components for refurbishing these Hawk missiles, ensuring Ukraine's air defense systems are going to remain operational. Production is going to take place at Common's facility in Middletown, Connecticut, with Common fusing, handling missile cladding, and ensuring top-tier quality control. Very important when it comes to these. This initiative is really supporting U.S.'s ongoing effort to strengthen Ukraine's air defenses against Russian attacks, especially to protect some of their more critical infrastructure. And then earlier this year, this is coming on top of a previously approved $138 million sale to Ukraine for the Hawk system maintenance and modernization. So this is on top of that.
Yeah, this isn't just about refurbishing old tech. It's actually about ensuring that Ukraine's air defenses can keep up with a very fast-moving, ever-evolving threat landscape. I mean, it wasn't that long ago where we were talking about hypersonics coming in from Russia. I mean, real cutting-edge technology. So when it comes to the life cycle, the real challenge for me here isn't just about building the parts. It's about speeding up production and making sure you've got that seamless integration into that existing Hawk system without delays, without quality issues. So really a critical need for me is protecting your infrastructure, making sure there's no room for error or downtime. It's speed.
Yeah. I think along with that, I'm going to dive into, you mentioned it briefly, but the integration portion here, because you've got the maintaining and modernizing of older technology that you're adding some new stuff to. And so in the whole process, you've got to figure out, how am I going to integrate this into these existing systems, to the things that need my data, need my components? How does this basically plug and play into the existing stuff, which I think has to be looked at ahead of time to see how you're going to be manufacturing and refurbishing all the stuff into those systems.
But I think that's kind of only half the story, really. Look, the biggest challenge right now is scaling production, I think, fast enough to keep up with the war effort of this new tech coming at you. You can have the best integration plan in the world, but if you're not cranking out those components quickly, Ukraine's defenses are at real risk. So for me, number one, again, is it's production speed without sacrificing quality. So how would I tackle it? Yeah, it's classic. Number one, you need to start with a solid mess mom solution. That's the first thing that gives you visibility, gives you manageability, controllability, and then overlay your AI-driven manufacturing on top of that. And that monitoring of your production in real time is going to help you kind of identify those bottlenecks with AI before they start slowing things down. Plus, integrating your predictive maintenance to make sure that your production lines are kept up and running, minimize downtime, not just reactive maintenance. So yeah, integration's key, but if you can't produce fast enough, the best integration in the world ain't going to matter.
Speaking of trying to do things quickly, I have a question for y'all.
Yeah.
How quickly can you read? I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. There is a lot of money being tossed around in this industry.
Interesting, because we only reported hot fire test number 1 from Blue Origin last week, and now it's number 2. They're moving, aren't they? They really are moving.
Yeah.
What was also interesting is Darman got another contract. I know, again, they got manufacturing execution, not necessarily challenges, but looking to be at the cutting edge of that because they're just winning more and more work. They're doing really, really well. And I noticed Kongsberg, which if you're going to talk AI, Kongsberg is right at the forefront of it.
Yeah. And going back to Blue Origin there, I mean, the launch is next month for New Glenn. So I'm excited to keep an eye on that. Yeah. We'll definitely be reporting on that. Virtualytics has secured a contract renewal from the U.S. Space Force to continue deploying its integrated readiness optimization workforce tool, the IRO workforce tool, the AI-driven tool. Andrew, don't say anything yet. I know you're really excited. It helps optimize workforce allocation, training, operational readiness, analyzes data from defense readiness, reporting systems, mission assessments. I mean, this system is going to be providing insights on unit readiness, mission critical KPIs, risk forecasting. It's huge. I think this is a big piece of technology that's coming through. The contract is supporting the USSF's mission to maintain their space superiority by improving efficiency, predicting asset failures, streamlining mission planning. There's a lot going on here.
I'm going to jump in before Andrew dives into AI. I'm going to be the first one to talk about AI this time because with the predictive modeling, the AI-driven analytics, these tools that you're talking about are going to optimize workforce allocation, training setups, reduce risk across operations. They're going to be, and this is the interesting part for me, they're going to be analyzing classified data sets to create information results models out of that, right? So we have to look at the rights of, who gets to see the data going in, your export control, your classification systems, your top secret, right? Like, how is this being updated to include non-human intelligence and to include the results from that? Like when these things are analyzed, are the results also classified because they came from classified data? I think looking at that is just a huge thing to have to tackle with this. And who gets to see these, who gets to use these? How is all of this data going to be used?
Bryan, AI, all yours this time, I think. But let's get real about what's actually driving this operational readiness. The US Space Force doesn't just need data protection and classification. They need to be able to predict and prevent these risks in real time before they become real threats. So for me, number one, here isn't just the AI models for security. It's also about ensuring that these insights are actionable, making sure that they're fast and they're integrated into mission planning on the fly. That's the real value of AI, I think, in this context. So you're giving the decision makers the power to adapt and optimize readiness, not just analyze data. So if I was running the show, so to speak, I'd focus on integrating the AI system into a continuous feedback loop with live mission data, allowing it to adjust your workforce allocation and asset management in real time. There you go.
That's great.
Yeah.
Mercury Systems has signed a contract with Boeing to supply FPGA processor boards for the U.S. Air Force's KC-46A tanker aircraft. Now, this is where things get crazy. The boards are powering the Remote Vision System 2.0, which enhances the refueling process by providing high-resolution, real-time video feeds from aircraft cameras. Sounds like Mercury Systems is delivering approximately 1,500 of these guys to support the updated RVS on KC-46 aircraft for both the U.S. and allied nations. I mean, boards are going to ensure faster data processing, seamless integration. This is all pretty crucial, but also what cool cutting-edge technology is Mercury Systems getting into? This is kind of neat.
Yeah, that's a big leap forward for this vision system. You're talking about real time high res video feeds that need to be crystal clear, especially during such a critical operations like mid-air refueling, because that it's real precision, isn't it? And then delivering 1,500 processor boards, I think you said. It's not just about production, it's about ensuring that these boards can handle high-speed data processing. and seamlessly integrate into the current systems without any hitches. So there's no margin error for error really when you're refueling thousands of feet in the air. That for me is a bunch of challenges.
Yeah, I think, Andrew, you've nailed all the things I wanted to talk about here, which was basically looking at the integration, the requirements, and delivering a bunch of them. So these boards basically have to be ready to plug and play into the systems, right? Into the camera systems to get that high-res data, that real-time data. And I did not actually have video cameras looking at fuel tanks in the air on my news bingo card for the day, but here we are. And it does make a lot. I'm thinking like, how do you do this without that? And it's just a neat, obviously makes sense. They need it, but they got to deliver 1,500 of them now. They've already delivered hundreds, but now they got to deliver 1,500. So I'm looking at basically the number one thing as our manufacturing at scale here, get them out there.
Yeah, you're right. Because you're right. It's not, integration's a challenge, definitely, but it's not as if you can plug it in and flick a switch. But for me, I agree with you. It's also the precision and the consistency across every board. Because even if one fails mid-operation, it's not just a technical issue; it's a mission critical failure. I mean, you can't refuel, you're turning back, etc. So here's how I'd handle that. I'd look at AI-powered quality control and predictive analytics during your production. So yes, at scale, but making sure you've got quality and predictive analytics running at the same time, because they need to ensure that each board is not only integrated perfectly, but performs flawlessly in real world conditions. So AI is going to be leveraged. They can catch potential defects in real time, make sure your production lines are adjusting on the fly, and guarantee that every board hits the performance standards required for something which is as mission critical as this.
Yeah, it's true. RTX's Raytheon division has shipped its first ANTPY-2 radar, which is equipped with gallium nitride technology, to Saudi Arabia. The ANTPY-2 can detect, track, and distinguish ballistic missiles, which, of course, is going to contribute to that missile defense, hypersonic missions. Really, RTX is an expert in radar systems. We know that their broader radar portfolio, systems like the SPY-6 and Ghost Eye MR, is expected to see strong demand. But I'm interested to see where this is going as well. It's a lot.
Did you notice in that picture, you didn't see what I normally think of when I think of radar, which is like that dish.
Yeah.
Right. So we're looking at new technology here that is actually kind of fascinating, because this is a missile defense radar system that's capable of detecting and tracking ballistic missiles, but it's operating in the X band of the electromagnetic spectrum. So it can see things more clearly. And they've got two configuration options for this radar. One is for detecting the rising ballistic missiles, and another is for guiding interceptors to a descending warhead. So kind of two use cases here that are similar but different. And because of that, I think configuration management and requirements are honorable mentions for me as I'm getting to my number one. But because I'm getting to my number one and we're dealing with new technology, there's no place I can go other than design and change management.
Yeah, I knew it. Yeah, I mean, you can't, don't get me wrong. It's a very big issue, definitely. But the real game changer for me on this one is scalability and adaptability. All this new tech stuff. How do you ensure that radar remains adaptable across evolving threats, especially when you've got hypersonic missiles now coming in? The tech can't just be good today. It has to keep pace with future threats, especially given how quickly this missile technology is advancing globally. So the number one for me is life cycle adaptability. You're not just shipping one radar and calling it a day. The system needs to continuously upgrade, real-time integration with other defense systems that are out there. So how I would attack it is going to be embedding AI into the radar's analytics and detection algorithms to continuously learn from incoming data that's going to be happening. So Yep, design and change, requirements, configuration management. That's a good one. But the real long-term value for me is making the system future-proof.
So in order to make something adaptable, I'm just going to say the way you do that is by proper design.
Nah, you need AI thereafter.
I think our challenge for next week, challenge to Andrew, is to somehow get through all 10 items without talking about AI.
That's a good challenge. That's a good challenge because I think there's the whole seamless digital thread, digital continuity piece. So let's get back to basics. I agree with you.
And on that note, I know Greg's going to pick articles that have nothing but AI in them, right?
That's right. Yeah, we're going to make it difficult for you for sure.
But yeah, we will see you all next week. Thanks for joining us for our defensive show, and have a fantastic rest of your week. And yeah, that's it. That's all we got. Ciao.
Good week.